Hello everyone, you're just joining in the Literary Nook by Faddy. Let's start our today's topic, but before going further, don't forget to subscribe my channel, like the videos and share. In the previous lecture, we have discussed a famous novelist Thomas Hardy, and we have thoroughly discussed his early life, his major works, themes in his works, characterizations, male and female characters, symbols, use of symbols in his work, his writing technique, the philosophy of pessimism in his work, and the major philosophies of his work: role of nature, rural life, role of fate, role of chance and coincidence in his work, his prose work, his poems, and his tries of dramas, each and every aspect of his life, and about his writing career. So today I'll thoroughly discuss the novel of Thomas Hardy, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I'll critically analyze all the characters of Tess of the D'Urbervilles and the themes of the novel, symbolism or use of symbols in the novel, the writing technique or writing style, as we can say, of the writer Thomas Hardy, and the significance of the title Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, all the phases of the novel, and will critically analyze or describe the summary of Tess of the D'Urbervilles and in which era that novel was written, and about the significance of the ending of the novel Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and the importance of one of the famous quote such as happiness is but a journal episode in drama of pain. The first and the foremost important thing to be discussed before going further is that in which era that novel was written. So, the novel Tales of the D'Urbervilles was written by Thomas Hardy during the Victorian era, especially between 1891 and 1892. The novel was serialized in a magazine in 1891 and then published as a complete work in 1892. The Victorian era, characterized by Queen Victoria reign 1837 to 1901, was a time of a significant social and cultural and technological changes. In context of this era, Tess of the D'Urbervilles can be analyzed in various ways, such as social realism. The novel reflects the social realism of the Victorian era, focusing on the struggles of working class and the challenges faced by women in a patriarchal society. Tess experiences highlight the injustices and the double standards that women often faced during that time. Another important way to analyze this is sexuality and morality. Hardy's portrayal of Tess' sexuality and its consequences was controversial for its time. The novel examines societal attitudes towards female sexuality, morality, and victim blaming. Tess' tragic fate can be seen as a critique of the moral rigidity of Victorian society. Another phase to be seen of Victorian era in the Tess of the D'Urbervilles was nature and industrialization. Hardy's description of the rural landscape and its contrast with urbanization and industrialization highlight the tension between traditional agrarian ways of life and the encroaching modern world. This reflects broader concern of the era about the impact of industrialization on the environment and society. Another Victorian phase to be discussed is fate and determinism. The novel's exploration of fate and determinism aligns with the broader philosophical discussions of Victorian era. That struggle can be seen as a reflection of the era's fascination with the idea that individuals were often bound by the forces beyond their control. Gender role in Tess. Tess of the D'Urbervilles challenged traditional gender roles and expectations. Tess' agency and her attempts to assert herself in a male dominant society underscore the changing roles and the aspirations of women during late 19th century. The novel also delves into religious and spiritual themes, questioning the role of divine justice in a world filled with suffering. This reflects the era's ongoing debates about the role of the religion in rapidly changing society. In essence, Tess of the D'Urbervilles is a complex work that engages with the social, cultural, moral concerns of the Victorian era. It critiques prevailing attitudes while also exploring timeless themes that continue to resonate with the readers today. Another important thing to be discussed before going in the detail is the title. The title Tess of the D'Urbervilles hold a significant literary and thematic importance in the novel. The title encapsulates the central conflict and theme of the story, exploring impact of social class, fate, and the concept of purity. The name Tess reflects character's identity and her innocence. It portrays her as a common, relatable figure rather than aristocratic one, highlighting the universal human experiences that she undergoes. Her simple name stands in contrast to the grandeur associated with D'Urberville's name, emphasizing the clash between her modest origin and her association with a prestigious family. The term D'Urberville's links Tess to her supposed noble lineage and the aspiration of upward social mobility. However, this lineage is ultimately revealed to be false, illustrating the fragility of social class distinctions and the arbitrary nature of societal hierarchy. Critics have remarked that title's use of Tess' first name underscores her individuality and humanity, making her struggles and choices more relatable to readers. It also serves as a commentary on the societal norms and expectations placed upon women in the Victorian era. Furthermore, the title's references to the D'Urberville's name highlights the themes of fate and destiny. Tess' association with D'Urberville sets in motion a series of events that shape her life, reflecting Hardy's exploration of how external forces can dictate a person's path. So, in conclusion, the title Test of the D'Urbervilles masterfully encapsulates the core themes of social class, identity, fate, purity within the novel. It creates a juxtaposition between Tess's individuality and her societal ties, inviting readers to critically examine the constraints imposed on her by both her name and her circumstances. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy is a novel that delves into the themes of social class, morality, and the impact of fate on human lives. The story follows Tess Durbeyfield, a young woman from a humble background who discovers that her family has a noble lineage. She is sent to work for the wealthy D'Urberville's family, where she encounters Alec D'Urberville, who takes advantage of her vulnerability. Tess eventually meets Angel Clare and they fall in love, but her past haunts their relationship. Critics have praised Hardy's vivid depiction of rural life, his exploration of the challenges faced by the woman in a patriarchal society, the novel's critique of Victorian social norms, and the hypocrisy of the upper class has also been lauded. Some critics, however, have found fault with Hardy's portrayal of Tess as a passive victim, arguing that she lacks agency in her own story. Others have questioned the novel's ending, with some perceived as fatalistic. In summary, Tales of the D'Urbervilles offer a complex portrayal of a young woman's struggle in a rigid and unforgiving society. While it has been celebrated for its social commentary, evocative writing, it has also forced criticism for certain aspects of character development and narrative choices. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy is a complex novel with several distinct phases that contribute to its overall narrative. These phases can be analyzed as follows. The maiden phase. In this phase, Tess Durbeyfield is introduced as an innocent and naive young woman from a humble background. Her encounter with Alec D'Urberville sets off a chain of events that leads to her downfall. Critics often note Hardy's portrayal of Tess's vulnerability and his commentary on the power dynamics between different social classes. The seduction phase. Alec's seduction of Tess and her subsequent realization of the consequences highlight themes of sexuality, morality, and social judgment. Critics have praised Hardy's exploration of Tess' internal conflict and the society's harsh treatment of a fallen woman, while also critiquing his portrayal of Alec as one dimensional villain. The next phase, the transition phase. Tess moved to the dairy farm. Talbot's represents a shift towards a more idyllic and pastoral setting. Critics appreciate the sense of hope and renewal in this phase as Tess finds love and acceptance with Angel Clare. However, some argue that Tess' decision not to disclose her past raises questions about communications and honesty. The next phase, the tragic phase, the revelation of Tess' past to Angel and his subsequent rejections of her. From the crux of the tragic phase, critics often emphasize the theme of forgiveness, hypocrisy, societal norms in this section. Angel's idealization of Tess and Tess' internal turmoil add depth to their characters. Next one, the execution phase. As Tess is put on the trial and ultimately executed, the novel delves into the themes of fate, justice, and inevitability of Tess' tragic end. Critics appreciate the commentary on the rigidity of Victorian morality and the bleakness of Tess' situation, but some find the ending overly fatalistic. Critics have offered various remarks on Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Some praise Hardy's vivid description of nature, English countryside, while others his portrayal of gender dynamics and his treatment of Tess as a passive victim. The novel's exploration of class, religion, societal expectations has sparked debates among critics, with some commending Hardy's social commentary and others questioning his approach. Overall, Tess of the D'Urbervilles remains a significant work in literature, offering a multi-layered narrative that invites readers to engage with its themes and characters in a thought-provoking manner. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy features several complex characters, each with their own strengths, flaws, and critical interpretations. Here is a brief analysis of some key characters along with potential critic remarks. So, the first character is Tess Durbeyfield. Tess, the protagonist, is often seen as a symbol of purity and victimhood. Critics may praise her resilience in the face of adversity while questioning her choices and passivity. Her tragic fate raises discussions about societal injustices and the role of the fate in her life. Next one, Angel Clare. Angel is seen as a well-intentioned character with modern ideals, but his hypocrisy and treatment of Tess are criticized. Critics might analyze his internal conflict between societal expectations and personal desires, highlighting his moral ambiguity. Alec D'Urbervilles. Alec is often depicted as a villain representing lust and manipulation. Critics may discuss his role as a catalyst for Tess' downfall and how his actions underscore theme of class and power dynamics. The next one, John Durbeyfield, Tess' mother. John can be interpreted as a representation of passive acceptance of fate. Critics might examine her influence on Tess' life choices and discuss the themes of generational cycles. Next one is John Durbeyfield. Her father is portrayed as irresponsible and dreamer. Critics may view him as a symbol of declining rural aristocracy and analyze his impact on Tess circumstances. Mrs. D'Urberville, Alec's mother, Mrs. D'Urberville, represents the social climbing and the hypocrisy of the upper class. Critics could explore her manipulative behavior and discuss her role in the test experiences. So these characters represent the harsh realities of rural life, serve as the foils to test experiences. Critics might discuss their role in highlighting test uniqueness and exploring themes of companionship and hardship. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy explores a multitude of themes that have intrigued both readers and critics alike. One of the central themes is the impact of social class and the Victorian societal norms on Tess' life. Critics have highlighted how Tess' noble lineage clashes with her lower social status, leading to her tragic fall. Another significant theme is the idea of fate and destiny. Tess' life seems to be governed by forces and beyond her control. Critics have examined how this fatalistic outlook shapes her decision and ultimately seals her tragic fate. The novel also delves into the concept of nature versus civilization. Tess is closely connected to the natural world, and critics have noted how her innocence and purity are often associated with natural landscapes. As she enters more urban environments, her purity becomes tainted, reflecting the corrupting influence of society. Gender role and sexuality are also explored. Test experiences with men and societal expectations placed upon her as a woman reveal the inequalities and challenges faced by Victorian women. Critics have analyzed how test sexuality is scrutinized and exploited, leading to her victimization. Hardy also critiques religious and moral hypocrisy. The characters' actions often contradict their professed beliefs and highlighting the double standard prevalent in society. Critics have praised how Hardy uses the theme to expose flaws and contradictions of his era. Lastly, the concept of modernity and progress as depicted through the changing landscapes of rural England. Critics have observed how Hardy portrays the tension between traditional agrarian values and the encroachment of industrialization. In summary, Tess of the D'Urberville encompasses a range of themes that reflect the complexities of Victorian society. Critics have lauded Hardy's nuanced exploration of these themes, uploading his ability to capture the intricate interplay between social, moral, individual forces in Tess' tragic life. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy is rich with symbolic elements that offer deeper insight into the characters, themes, and social issues portrayed in the novel. Let's focus on a few significant symbols along with critical remarks. Tess' name and ancestry. D'Urberville's Tess name itself is a symbolic of her identity and social status. The aristocratic sounding D'Urberville signifies her false claim to noble ancestry, reflecting the social pretensions of the time. Critics often view this symbol as a commentary on the class and illusion of lineage. May dance. This May dance symbolizes traditional rural life and customs. It is a celebration of fertility and the changing seasons. Critics note that the symbol contrasts with Tess' tragic experiences, emphasizing the clash between traditional values and the harsh reality of modern society. The natural landscapes of the novel often mirror Tess' emotional state. The lush and picturesque setting of Tess' birthplace, Talbot's, reflect her moments of happiness and purity. In contrast, the barren and the harsh landscapes of Flintcomb Ash and the Sandbourne signify her suffering and despair. Critics highlight how nature serves as a mirror to Tess' emotional journey. The color red is a recurring symbol throughout the novel. It is associated with Tess' passion, vitality, and often impending doom. The red strawberries, blood, and sunset all carry symbolic meaning of sensuality, sacrifices, and tragedy. Critics interpret the color red as a marker of Tess' entrappment within societal norms and expectations. The ruins represents decline of the aristocratic D'Urberville family. Critics discuss how these ruins parallel Tess' own downfall and reflect the decay of traditional values and social hierarchies. Dairy farming and the production of milk and butter symbolizes purity, motherhood, and feminine. Tess' work at the dairy is seen as a temporary escape from her troubles, allowing her moments of innocence and connections with the rhythms of nature. Critic highlights the juxtaposition between Tess' role as a milkmaid and her tragic experiences. Angel's name symbolizes his idealistic and somewhat naive nature. He is often seen as a representation of a divine or angelic figure, but his actions and decisions also reveal his human flaws. Critics discuss how Angel's name underscores the complexities of his character and his internal struggle. These symbols collectively contribute to the novel's depth and offer readers a multi-layered understanding of its themes and characters. Critics remark on these symbols vary, but they are generally emphasize how Hardy skillfully weaves these elements together to create a powerful narrative that critiques societal norms, explores human conditions, and delves into the complexities of love and morality. The ending of Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy holds profound significance. Tess' tragic fate and her ultimate demise symbolize the cruel and the unforgiving nature of society's judgment, especially towards women. Hardy uses Tess' tragic end to critique Victorian societal norms, the class system, the hypocritical moral standards of the time. Test execution also highlights the cyclical nature of suffering and the inescapable consequences of her past actions. The ending resonates with the theme of fate, injustice, and harsh realities of life. It serves as a commentary on the powerlessness of individuals against societal forces and the mercilessness of destiny. The very important and the foremost quote to be discussed is happiness is but a general episode in the drama of pain. Reflects the overchanging theme of suffering and tragic nature of Tess' life. This quote suggests the moments of happiness are fleeting and temporary, overshadowed by the pervasive and the enduring presence of pain and hardship in Tess' journey. Throughout the novel, Tess experiences numerous hardships and injustices, from her initial encounter with Alec d'Urberville to the societal condemnation she faced due to her past. The quote encapsulates the idea that Tess' moments of happiness are overshadowed by the larger narrative of her struggle and suffering. Hardy uses this quote to emphasize the tragic nature of Tess' life, to comment on the broader human experiences of enduring pain and suffering. It also reflects the novel exploration of the role of fate and idea that happiness is often elusive and fragile in the face of life's challenges. Overall, this course serves as a poignant reflection on the central theme of suffering and tragedy in Tess of the D'Urberville, highlighting the complex and often painful journey of the protagonist. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy is a classical novel known for its intricate writing techniques. Critics have highlighted several aspects of the novel writing that contribute to its impact. Hardy skillfully employs symbolism and vivid imagery throughout the novel. The recurring motif of the color red symbolizes Tess' passionate nature, her inevitable association with her tragic fate. The lush and idyllic description of the countryside contrasts sharply with the harsh realities of Tess' life, creating a poignant atmosphere. The novel follows a chronological narrative, but Hardy weaves in flashbacks and retrospective elements, allowing readers to see characters' motivations and past experiences. This technique provides depth and complexity to the characters and their actions. Hardy's character development is meticulous, revealing their inner conflicts and moral dilemmas. Tess is portrayed as a complex character torn between societal expectations and her own desires. Critics have lauded the psychological depth with which Hardy portrays his characters. The novel is a critique of Victorian society's rigid class and gender norms. Hardy's exploration of the injustices faced by Tess due to her social status and gender is a significant aspect of the novel. Critics have praised his ability to expose societal issues through his characters' experiences. The theme of fate and determinism is central to the novel, and critics have noticed that Hardy's exploration of how external forces shaped her life, leading her inexorably towards her tragic end. This theme adds a layer of fatalism and inevitability to the narrative. Hardy employs irony and paradox to underscore the tragic elements of the story. The juxtaposition of Tess' purity with the impurity projected onto her by society creates a powerful irony. Critics appreciate how these literary devices enhance the emotional impact of the narrative. Hardy's use of descriptive and evocative language immerses readers in the rural landscapes and emotional turmoil of the characters. The dialogues reflects the regional dialect, adding authenticity to the setting and characters. Tess of the Durable is for its skillful narrative constructions, compelling characters, its exploration of societal issues. However, some have also criticized the novel for what they perceive as an excessively fatalistic view of life and a tendency towards melodrama. So it is important to note that literary criticism can be subjective and different critics may have varying interpretation and assessments of the novel's writing technique. That was all for today. Stay connected for more literary videos. Me, Fairy, signing out from the Literary Nook by Fairy.